Hey guys, welcome back to the random toy box today. And today I had a fun video because I just wanted to go ahead and do this because, I have a lot of fun doing this kind of stuff. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right to the video. So, this video is a top 10 best cards in Clash Royale. I'm not including legendaries because honestly, there are so many legendaries you could make a best legendary list, which I will be making. And also, of course, there will be a worst cards list. Just you guys wait. The Expo will get its retribution. Anyhow, let's go ahead and just jump right into this list that I'm not talking about you. Because Clash Royale has had some great cards over the short time that it's been up. And it's still going to continue to have great cards as the game progresses. Right now, though, taking the number 10 slot, and the only reason they aren't higher on the list is because they kind of get replaced the farther you get into arenas. The first card on this list is going to have to be Goblins. Both of them, Spear Goblins and regular Goblins. It's a 2 elixir card. Spear Goblins, very great tech option. I mean, they're air-hitting troops, one of the first early air-hitting troops that you can get. And regular Goblins, they're just really fast, strong hitters, glass cannons that make really good support cards and distracting cards. Now, so I know a lot of people don't see what's so great about Goblins, but Goblins can just be pretty much thrown into any deck. They cost so little, and their utility is just amazing. I mean, think about it. What do you do for minions if you need to take out a minion horde but you don't have a zap? Well, if you need your tower to be helped, or skeleton army, boom, slap some spear goblins in there. If it's a graveyard, goblins will very easily take down a graveyard. Like, just counter it immediately. That's 5 elixir that they spent for, and then you spent 2, and you have a counter push. They're just great overall offensive cards, but they do get beaten out by a card that you get later in the game. The reason that they're still on this list, though, is because of how early you get access to them and how early it is that you can actually start getting them to good playable levels. Alright, now, moving on to number 9, we're going to have the regular minions be taking the spot. I know, 2 common cards taking up the spots already. Whoop-de-doo. What is so great about minions? Well, of course, again, they get kind of beaten out by a card that's later on this list, but what's so great about this minion horde, or minions, is that they're one of the first flying troops that you can get, and minions themselves have the highest DPS in the game. Like, how much damage they do relative to how much they attack is higher than any other card in the game. I think actually goblins might beat them out, but the difference about goblins is, regular goblins, is that they're ground troops. They can be distracted or killed by a lot of things. Valkyrie. But minions, there are very few options to deal with them besides spells. I mean, you could wizard them or baby dragon them, but even those aren't the greatest options, especially if they have a tank. Whereas if they put goblins down, you can just put a Valkyrie behind the tank and then kills the goblins, so boom. But not with minions. So that's why minions deserve, especially since they are an Arena 2 card. That was the one card in Arena 2 that I wanted the most out of anything. I love the minions in both Clash of Clans and Clash Royale, and they're honestly a really good card, and they are much more valuable than 3 elixir. Alright, taking the number 8 spot, the 8th spot is going to have to go to the Giant. I know that the Giant is like a really awesome, what is it? I know the Giant is a really low-level card, and that it wasn't really used it isn't really used now, but you guys should have been playing this game when the Giant's heyday was around. When Giant Poison, I remember it very clearly. I was out of the game for like 6 months, but back when I was playing it, Giant Poison, that was the deck to run. Giant Poison Prince, the deck. It was stupid how good that deck was. And that's because for 5 elixir, you get a tank with only about 1,500-ish, maybe, less hit points than a golem. For 4 elixir less, you get basically 2 golemites combined into one. And unlike some other things unlike one of the other things that's later on this list, the reason it's a standalone card that still makes it on this list to this day is because it goes after buildings. It's one of the hardest troops in the early arenas to actually distract, because there's only like one building and it's the Goblin Hut, and you don't want to waste the Goblin Hut to distract a giant. That's not a very good use of a Goblin Hut. So it's just like one of the hardest cards to stop, and they do really good damage for a card. I mean, they're way more valuable than 5 Elixir. So, woo giant. Now going to be taking the number, I believe this is number 7, right? Yes, number 7. Number 7, and I wish I could put him higher up on the list. I so freaking wish I could put him higher up on this list, but I just can't because of the technical flaws that this card has, but it has to go to the Giant Skeleton. The Giant Skeleton is one of the more wacky cards that this deck actually, that this game actually has, and it has a fun mechanic that it's essentially a suicide. You want it to die, but you want it to die near your opponent's tower, because the Giant Skeleton's bomb itself does more damage than the Giant Skeleton could ever do in its lifetime. Unless it was unguarded. Unless the tower just let it, because it does have more hit points than a Giant. And it's worth the 6 Elixir. It's worth it. It's not too much, and it's not too little like the Giant. The Giant should be 6 Elixir. That's all I'm going to say basically about the Giant. Well, I'm going to reference it a little bit more in this one, but it's well worth it at 6 Elixir, the Giant Skeleton. The reason I cannot put it any higher than this is because of the fact that it does not target buildings. If it targeted buildings, it would be the most OP card in the game. There would be very little things that could actually stop this card. And it does really good damage for a troop to begin with. 100 damage per smack, that's not bad damage. It doesn't get too much more damage as it levels up, of course, but to start out with 100 base damage, especially in those lower arenas as an epic card, that's pretty freaking decent damage. And then another thing that would make this card just so much better is if they lowered the 3 seconds to 2 seconds. If they lowered it to 2 seconds, not 1 second, because back when it was 1 second, it was OP as all crap, but 2 seconds would just give it a little bit more viability to take out things like minions and goblins as well. Use it as a good distracting card, because right now things like hog riders and goblins and minions, they just get away from it before the bomb can go off. So, I wish I could put him higher, but again, unlike the Giant, he can't target buildings. The only reason he's higher up on the list than this Giant is because he's a better utility card than the Giant is. That's all I'm going to say. For the number 6 slot, we're going to have, right, this is yes, 6 slot we're going to have on this list is going to be the Goblin Horde. Or Goblin Gang. Sorry, guys. We'll get into some more interesting cards. I just wanted to get some of these out of the way. Remember, these are my opinions. And this is the card that beat out the regular goblins, because while the goblins, both of them combined, cost 4 Elixir to play, which is still a really good play in early arenas, this card costs 3. 1 less Elixir. And they come in a little neat circle fashion. And it's 1 card. You don't have to level up 2 separate cards. Like right now, my spear goblins are level 9, but my regular goblins are level 10, and it's like really wonky, the damage difference between the two, because I can't use the spear goblins to take out stuff that I would normally use the goblins for. They're just not a good replacement right now because they're not equal level. But if you have a goblin gang, problem solved. Plus, it's a much better distracting card. And basically, it's on this list for all the same reasons regular goblins and spear goblins are on this list at all. So, taking up the number 5 slot. Wow, I can't believe we're already halfway through this list and I've only mentioned 1 epic card. Anyway, the number 5 slot actually has 2 honorable mentions and 1, because all these cards are very similar. As in, you can make, like, the bait deck. I think if you put Goblin Gang in this, it makes an even better bait deck for arrows and zap. But the first honorable mention is going to be the Goblin Barrel. Goblin Barrel has always been a wacky card, and it's always been a good card. As in, even when it was at 4 Elixir, while it may not have been, while it may not have been a good, like, a viable option for higher arenas, back in the lower arenas, I remember trolling the crap out of people with this barrel that I thought was completely useless. Why? Because, well, at that level, nobody has level 6 spear goblin, or regular goblins, Like, you can literally just put level 6 goblins anywhere on the field, like, at level 1. Like, that's really good. And then they lowered it. They took out its damage, but they lowered it to freaking 3. Like, that's not a hindrance getting rid of its damage because it did, like, no damage anyway. It's just, like, a really phenomenal card. And it's one of the best bait cards and finisher cards, especially if you've got, like, a golem or something. The next honorable mention is very similar. It has to be the Skarmy. Skarmy was not a very great card. It was a crap card for the longest time. 4 elixir to summon 20 level 1 skeletons. Or 20 whatever level skeletons. Max level 8. That's bull crap. That's the waste. They can arrow that, and the satisfaction of watching an arrow or a zap get rid of a skeleton army is so much nostalgia, dude. It's like the greatest thing ever. But like, it's like, really, like, that's not very good. And then came the update where they rose it to 21. And then that was actually a little bit better. And then they also lowered it to where its levels were, they started out at level, I think, 6. So all of a sudden, Skeleton Army becomes really good. Oh, it's still not seeing enough use. What does Supercell go to decide to do? This card's cost, just like the Goblin Barrel, needs to be at 3. Why? Because it needs to be good. All of a sudden, you add a 3-cost card that spawns 21 guys on the field. Instantly. And while they still can be arrowed and logged and stuff like that, like, think about the distracting. You can have how many cards go on each side. Like, this is just too good. And then they lowered the troops down from 21 to 18. But I mean, getting rid of 3 guys is not very good. They bumped up the regular skeletons up to 4, but that's just mostly they were bumped down to 3 because of how good of a distracting unit the skeletons at the time were. They were really just trying to nerf the skeletons and make the skeleton army, which is a more fun and wacky card, much more viable option. And now it's like the viable option. Like, I seriously think, like, I've seen people in Frozen Peak using skeleton army because it's just like, really? Why not? But the card that actually went, while both of those honorable mentions are great in their own rights, the Medal of Valor or Honor or whatever had to go to the Minion Horde. One sec, guys. That's going to take some editing. I had to edit those two of these videos together. But let's just jump right back where we were. Minion Horde. Why is this card the one that wins? Well, let's take into account the minions themselves are pretty much well known as having the, if not the highest, the second highest, at least, DPS in the game. So, I mean, when you have 3 of them, it's okay, but why not for 1 elixir less, why not spawn 6? I mean, they're like the best thing to arrow in the game. I mean, obviously the counter for arrows is like the best trade-off in the game. But the Minion Horde itself, even though it's not a great distracting card against like Giant Skeleton or Giants or stuff like that, a Giant Skeleton will not make it to the tower if a Minion Horde is the thing that is attacking it. It might make it to the tower if it's a Goblin Gang. Well, actually, that's not true. It'll make it because they distract it. But it'll make it to the tower if it's just regular minions. But no, not a Minion Horde. They're too strong. So they're on this list for all the same reasons that minions are on here. Minions right now, though, I'm using regular instead of Horde because I need to lower the cost of my deck a little bit. So anyway, on to the next card. This card. Oh, this card. We need a spell, but I can't decide between the two, so I'm just going to pair them up together. The Zap and the Arrows. Not the Log. The Log would beat them, but it is a legendary, so it doesn't get. So stop your crying and whining. The Arrows and Zap. What do they do? Well, the Arrows and Zap are essentially the younger brothers of the Log that can be used to take out minions, so I guess they do have a little bit more tech option. Why are they both paired together, and why isn't there an honorable mention? Because they're pretty much the same card. They just have different utilities. I remember when the Zap stunned for 1 second. That was the greatest thing ever. But, unfortunately, it only stuns for half a second now. But we're going to go over each kind of card. Zap costs 1 less, so it can be a more viable option, but it can't kill minions. So, that's the kicker. Arrows can kill minions. Zap cannot. However, Arrows is one of the first cards that you get. And early on, you figure out that you need arrows. The skeleton army, especially now, is way too good to not have arrows in your deck. The fireball costs too much to have in your deck. You need arrows. That is literally the philosophy behind this. And if you don't have arrows, you better dang well have a zap, because you are going to lose without one of those cards. Fire spirits do not make a good replacement for them because they are troops. They themselves can be zapped, and they are not a damage spell. You can't play them as reactively as you can arrows or zap, and this is kind of me talking now about the necessity of having one of these two spells, unless you have the log, because that's the only other option, the log or these other two cards. That's my thing. All right, where were we? Now we're at number 3, right? Oh god, top 3. Do I want to go off right now in the meta, or do I want to? Sure, why not? Next card, Golem. Why Golem? I know I put giant skeleton. It's 3 tanks and no cannons or anything like that. I mean, I don't even have a building on here, but it's because none of the buildings are really any good. Anyway, except for the Inferno Tower. But let's go with the Golem. Why? Well, it's an 8 elixir card. One of the most expensive cards in the game. So, why is it good again? The Golem was not good for the longest time. It sucked for the longest time. It even sucked, like, up until, like, a month or 2 ago. But then, they did something. They did something amazing. And they buffed its death damage to where now it can kill minions, goblins, skeletons. It can kill everything now when it dies. And if, beforehand, it was kind of a waste, because you'd play it and then you'd play some stuff behind it, but they wouldn't be able to kill minions in time, and the minions would just kill it and then they'd survive. And if you didn't have a good, like, splash option like a witch or a baby dragon, and you had to settle for something like spear goblins, the minions would just, like, bowl over both of them and barely do, and nothing would happen. But now, you can't really play, you gotta think better about when you're playing against a Golem deck about where you want to place those minions or minion hordes, because now they die. Like, they're gone. There's nothing you can do about it. They die with the explosion, which is the greatest thing that you could do. The giant skeleton can also kill them, but there's so much time before that bomb goes off, whereas the Golem is, like, instant damage. Just instantly dead. So that's my thing about the Golem. Alright? Next card we have on this list, it's going to be a kicker. Number 2. What takes the number 2 spot? Remember, these are my opinions. Alright? So don't you dare sass me down in the comments. What takes the number 2 spot? Well, it was kind of a close fight between 2 cards, so I'm just going to put them both. The first one, of course, is going to be an honorable mention. First one, the Executioner. Before you criticize me, let's think about the Executioner for a minute. He throws his axe in one direction against minions. And I'm just going to keep using minions because, to be honest with you, that's the one reason we use splash damage, is to take down minions, because they're OP. So let's think about this. Executioner throws his axe, hitting everything in a certain area, like the bowler, right? Except it doesn't knock him back. And the bowler can't even knock some troops back. But he hits everything, right, for a good amount of damage, right? But it doesn't kill him. And then the axe comes back. And it basically kills any light troops that it hit on the way there. So, yeah. Honorable mention, good. 5 elixir, that's like witch status right there. And it's a better splash option than the witch, actually. So, yeah, love the Executioner, guys. Love it. But, unfortunately, the actual thing had to go to another common card. Oddly enough, a lot of the common cards are the best things in this game. Elite Barbs. Yes, we've all had those games where your opponent opens up with Elite Barbs, or, I mean, where you start your giant push, your slow push, or even your quick push on one side, and your opponent defends it and then places Elite Barbs on the other side. And you're just like, I don't know what to do. I just used all my cards to push at you, and now you played cards that I can't stop and will kill my tower if I don't. The Elite Barbs have been the bane of some of my battles. The bane of them. Hello, Batman. Do you like my big sword? Sorry about that. They are so stupid at how overpowered they are. Sure, they're not anything like a minion horde or minions when it comes to taking something down when actually they can be, because they do cost 6 elixirs, so they're a little clumsy to play and they clog up your deck sometimes. But you're spawning 2 barbs that run very fast, so they're hard to distract in general, and they instant kill a lot of things that you would normally use to distract barbs. And even the prince can't kill them because they have so much freaking health and damage. I just rage whenever I see this card, because personally, the card is amazing, alright? I'm not going to doubt it. But personally, I don't really even like the card. I just don't like barbarians in general. I just don't like barbarians in general. And some of you are going to be like, well, barbarians help me get past. I don't care. I just don't like barbarians. But I'm not going to say that it's a bad card because I just don't like them. Alright? That's like my one unbiased opinion. Alright, and the last card that's going to be on this list, the last card, personal favorite of mine, the baby dragon. I hear some of you saying, oh, the comments are hurting, the comments. Hear me out before you do anything. Alright, the baby dragon, listen. It's a flying splash damage troop. I think he is the only splash damage troop in the game that flies. What? Mind blown. Holy crap, you can't goblin him. You can't even spear goblin him. You can't skeleton. You can't surround him with skeletons. You can't barbarian him. You can't elite barb him. You can't Valkyrie him. I mean, you can distract him with all of those things, but you can't kill him, and especially if he has a tank in front. And you can't even minion him sometimes because he has a lava hound in front of him. And then he kills the minions, like he two-shots minions. Like, what the heck? And he's a mini tank on top of that. So you got some extra tech in there. And not only that, but no, he doesn't cost 5, which he really should, in my opinion. He should definitely cost 5. Even though he's my favorite card and I love him and I think he's broken as all crap right now, he should definitely cost 5 for his worth right now.
Yes, I just realized that with the new bats coming out, and I didn't know about this at the time I was recording the video, that the baby dragon is going to be even more broke than ever. Yeah.
He is like, oh my god. Baby dragon, dude. Like, if I don't have the witch, which the witch is usually what I play in the back, because I like to save the baby dragon for defense, oddly enough, because he just moves a little too quick for my golem, but the baby dragon is just like, it's the card that I would ultimately, if I had a good golem push going, which baby dragon, they kill everything. Baby dragon brings minions to half health, witch can two-shot him. Boom. Or witch two-shots him and baby dragon kills him. Boom. Minions gone. Baby dragon kills one part of the skeleton army, witch kills another part, so on and so forth. Boom. Like, it's one of the best splash damage troops in the game. Alright, guys? Anyhow, that was my list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to put in the comments down below what you think some of the best cards in the game are, and kind of have a little bit of a discussion with this. Remember, this is just my opinions. If you do put a card down in the comments that you think should be either A, was a card that was a little lower on the list and you think it should be higher, or a card that wasn't on the list that you think really should, go ahead and post your reasons down on the board. I mean, I think I covered my bases on some of my cards pretty well, at least on the cards that weren't like extra better copies like Minions versus Minion Horde. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Go ahead. Don't forget to keep your kingdoms clashing, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.